And I remember being sad when it ended because I'm a music person.
And then as soon as you think about the church being worldwide, you're like, this conversation's so stupid.
It comes back in my face that I have an aging brain is when I have to learn one of these new hymns.
I was thinking of it in terms of what would invite the Spirit more, the standard intermediate hymn that we do, or a family going up and singing a primary hymn.
So you're comparing musical numbers to intermediate hymns.
Yes.
Well,
And
yeah, obviously. So
is it all?
I thought you had a problem with musical numbers.
No, I have a problem with the default intermediate hymn and how much it does not invite the Spirit.
How about it does give you a chance to stand up if the chorister has you stand up.
Well, it gives people a chance to not pay attention, which is exactly what people do. When the intermediate
Yeah,
comes up,
you
they're
know,
like,
you could
they're
even
like,
do. I mean, the family musical number could even be impromptu. That would be kind of fun. I think
that's the goal. Like that's what I'm saying. Is like
that would be fun.
here's the culture as it exists. The culture as it exists is that you beg a family to do a musical number. Like weeks of begging and warming them up to the idea, promising them cookies, like all this different stuff. And then they finally accept and they spend weeks preparing for it. And they're bringing all their kids together, right? And like, we're going to do this hymn that nobody's ever heard of. And it's beautiful. I found it on a radio station one time and bought the music. And we got this person who's practicing the piano, learning this particular thing. We're going to do all this so that we can perform this thing one time to our congregation. And it's going to be the best thing everybody's heard. Okay, great.
Okay,
That's terrible. That's terrible. So my proposal is that maybe, the extreme version of my proposal is that it is impromptu. And I've seen this in other churches, right? Like the Pentecostal church we went to, this is exactly how it goes. They say, okay, we'd like to, let's take a break. Let's see. Yeah, we're pretty wiped out from doing all this worship stuff. Hey, you guys, the Smith family, why don't you come up and sing us a hymn? And they stand up and they walk up and the dad's like, let's see, anybody got any ideas? And like, yeah, let's sing that one. And so they start singing it and they get through like a verse and a half. And then everybody in the congregation joins in. And pretty soon everybody's singing again, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, this would be easy to do in an LDS ward because everybody knows the hymns and they're not like eternal hymns. They're only 2 verses, 3 verses, 4 verses, and then you're done. And if you have a piano player like we do in my ward, they can just play whatever. Then you could easily just do impromptu right here and now. If you don't want to do that, fine. Give them a few weeks notice, but you say it has to be out of the hymn book or the primary songbook. You get no option to do any kind of crazy other thing. And some people are going to be like, but they'll be grateful in the end because they were able to put something together easily that their family could learn quickly. There was no pressure and that invited the Spirit. I don't want to put a number to it, but 10 times more than an intermediate hymn.
Yeah, an intermediate hymn is a cop-out. I mean, we don't do intermediate hymns. We just,
Really?
if there's no planned musical number, we don't do anything. I think the impromptu thing could work, especially if you warned everybody, like, this could happen, have a hymn in mind if you get called on. But I think there would be some people, if you weren't careful, there would be some people that would just say, like, if they got called on, no, we're not going up.
Like I said, the impromptu would definitely be the extreme end of this. The way I would propose it at first is I would tell the ward, like, hey, every second and fourth Sunday, we're going to do a family musical number for the intermediate hymn, and we're going to give you 2 weeks notice. And then it's basically another sacrament meeting talk, right? You call the one guy and you're like, hey, give a talk on the Spirit, whatever. And then you call the other guy and you're like, hey, your family's assigned for the intermediate hymn. And then if they want to like combine and they're going to do 2 families, or it's going to be a solo or whatever, coordinate that with the music person. Otherwise, what we expect is just your family, a hymn, or a primary song.
Our ward does quite a few musical numbers because it's a priority for our bishop. But there are Sundays when we don't have anything. And I think, I mean, he would like a musical number every Sunday but Fast Sunday. And so this kind of thing would work. I just think there's this tradition of a rehearsed kind of special musical number. So if you wanted to make it just more regular and loose and fun, you would have to work on that.
And I would imagine,
You'd have to tell the ward music chair, okay, this is what we want.
and I would imagine your bishop prefers musical numbers because they invite the spirit, or is it because there's like 100 people banging on his door every week asking for musical number opportunities?
He loves music. I mean, nobody's begging for opportunities, maybe once in a while, but like last Sunday, we had two older primary kids that sang one of the new hymns, probably the simplest new hymn so far. And it was just perfect. It was just somebody at the piano plunking through the verses and
Yep. Yeah, that would be so cool. I know some wards have problems with music because it gets like weird competitive, and it's kind of its own problem. I was talking to the primary or the choir person in our ward not too long ago, and I said, "Why is it the tradition that we practice a song for a month or two and we only perform it once? Why wouldn't we perform it like every week for 2 months? Like, what is that? Is it a problem?" And she was like, "Well, I used to be in a ward that rehearsed, practiced, and performed the same 5 hymns over and over and over again, and it worked out great because they only performed once a month. So that means that every 6 months you're hearing one of the songs that you heard 6 months ago, which most people don't even notice. Like, it's really not that big a deal.
oh yeah, the
But
congregation does not notice.
but the choir really appreciates it because the choir gets used to them, they get good at them, they're practicing the same ones over and over again, and they love those songs, they love singing them, they're great picks. And so I was thinking, like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that would make it a lot easier on choir director and everybody involved, even the congregation, make it easier.
We had a choir director that had like a repertoire of maybe 20 songs. And this is over a couple of decades. You know, we would sing a new one once in a while, but at Christmas we were using the same ones, and they were nice songs. They were songs she loved. And I remember at times thinking, man, it'd be nice to do something new. Um, Singing the same song over and over, like the new hymns are a new thing, right? And we're supposed to be learning them. Um, and I like the idea of like picking a new hymn and singing it for the congregation 2 or 3 times so that they're hearing it. I mean, it's all about repetition, right? So, like the organist should be playing these hymns as prelude and postlude, just so the melodies of these new hymns are being absorbed. Um, and we
Yeah,
should be using them wherever we can. There's no music in Relief Society these days, and it's kind of sad. And
yeah, yeah. I wish we sang in
so,
elders quorum, but I also wish our elders quorum wanted to sing. So there's an older guy in the ward that said that back in the day when the hymn book that is now standard used to be new, they had several Sundays where they would take half the Sunday school class and they would just practice and
okay,
learn.
I remember this, and I had that calling. So in 1985, the year we got married, they released the new hymn book. And it was more than just a few months, it was like 2 years, maybe
Jeez.
more. This is something you could look up. And what they would do is right after sacrament meeting, a chorister, and this is what I did, I would go up there. I wasn't the regular chorister. This was just my calling. I would go up there and we had 10 minutes and we would sing through one of the new hymns. And you could get a little creative, but you didn't have more than 10 minutes. So it wasn't half of Sunday school, but it was 10 minutes. And I thought we would just do it forever. I thought, oh, this is a new program and we'll do it forever. But it did end. And I remember being sad when it ended because I'm a music person. I love the hymns.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that we keep doing that with the new hymns, right? That we take some time to learn
Yeah,
the new
well, they
hymns.
might.
Well,
Maybe
that
when the
so
actual printed hymn book gets released, they might do that again. I'm kind of wondering if they will.
I'm wondering if they ever will print a hymn book again, if it'll be basically digitally growing
Okay, on that subject, they have said the printed edition will come out in 2026, but it's been
uh,
delayed several times,
yeah,
so we'll
I'll
see.
believe it when I see it.
And the other thing is, there will be a printed hymn book, I'm sure of it. The other thing is, I read just this week, they released an article about copyrights for all these new hymns they want to use. And the church's policy on this new hymn book is if they can't get every copyright right, like print and digital and performance and using them in FSY, if they can't get everything, they're not using the hymn.
Yeah,
And one example they gave was how great thou art. And they didn't come right out and say, we're not going to be using that hymn because we can't get all the rights. But they're hinting at it, right? Almost like they're preparing people who love that hymn, which there are a
yeah,
lot of people, right? For the possibility that it may not be in the hymn book.
yep, yeah. We had a new hymn on the roster not too many meetings ago, and for the introduction, what do they call the prelude, whatever? Instead of playing what it says to play to introduce the song, she played the entire hymn, and it wasn't short, so it was obvious. And I remember because the chorister was like standing up there ready, and then she kind of was like, "Wait, oh," and then so she's like standing there for a solid 2 minutes before she actually got the intro to start the hymn, and my wife was like, what's going on, what is, and I was like, this is the new hymn, so she wants to give us the whole melody and tune before we start singing it, so we kind of know where we're going. But
Our choir did Standing on the Promises. We did Standing on the Promises, which I think is an African American spiritual, this is when I remember, and it comes back in my face that I have an aging brain, is when I have to learn one of these new hymns. And I love the hymns, but I've never had to learn a hymn that was an African spiritual. And so I had to work on it at home for like 2 weeks daily. I'm at the piano plunking this out and trying to get, it's a very wordy song, trying to get the words and the rhythm and the style and the feeling. And some of these hymns are going to be tough to learn. Some of them are a lot like what we've already had, and they're not going to be a big deal, or they're very, very short. There's a couple that
well,
are so short.
some of them you're not going to learn, right? Because you didn't learn all the hymns in the old hymn book.
Yeah. So the little batches of new hymns have been coming out like every
Okay.
few months, right? And then one week they released this interview with Elder Renland, where he's talking about the new hymn book, the project, the process. And he's emphatic about how the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 are involved and approve the selection of every new hymn. It's not like this has been, a clandestine committee. No, we are very involved and we are approving it. And this is like on the fourth batch of hymns or something. I'm like, what's coming up that they feel like they need to do this little PR move to try to prepare people? Like, there's something coming down that people need to understand that the apostles approved it. And sure enough, the next week, they released the new batch of hymns. And one of the new hymns is God Can Use Me, something God Can Use Me. And the little reel that they posted to accompany this new batch of hymns was this jazzy piano vocal version of that hymn. Like jazz. It was jazz. The way he was playing it on the piano and improvising in the way that the singer was singing it, it was just jazz. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Now, if you
Yeah,
take that same hymn and you just put it up at the piano and you play it straight, it doesn't sound like jazz.
right.
But the insinuation is you can jazz it up and it's okay with us. I mean, this was on the church website that they released this reel.
Well, to me, it reminds me of the conversation around garments and how if you keep the conversation within North America, then it sounds normal, right? Like, what's going on? This is crazy. Garments, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you think about the church being worldwide, you're like, this conversation's so stupid. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with the hymns, where it's you watch the jazzy version of the hymn, and if you're North America brain, you're like, this is weird. And then as soon as you're like, this is a worldwide church, you're like, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense. Like there's going to be people all over the world trying to figure out these new hymns, and we do not want everybody in the world singing the new hymns or the old hymns or any hymn for that matter exactly how Utah sings the hymns. They should sing them how they want to sing the hymns. And if there's any problem, some visiting authority will be like, hey, get the drum set out of here. That's not appropriate. Other than that, let them figure out how they want to sing the hymns. And it was funny in Mexico, we would sing the hymns, and the timing was always off. Like for some reason, I don't know if it's just like the music education was not that great or whatever, but they would get used to playing and singing the hymns a certain way, and then they would just do that forever, and it was just not right. It was not according to the music. Like the quarter note was now a half note, and the half note was a quarter note. But that was the way they did it. I mean, that to them, that was what they wanted to do. That was how they got used to it, and it was still beautiful. You just had to learn it a little bit different. It's not a big deal. But I can't imagine that, visiting authorities or missionaries or Christ himself is going to walk in their room and be like, oh, you guys got to fix this. This hymn is out of control. Like, no, you sing it however you want to sing it.
I was talking to another sister in my ward who's really into music, and she said that they have said, and I haven't seen this anywhere, but she said she saw that they're not going to include any of the national anthems. And she was
Yeah.
super sad about that. It makes so much sense, right? Because it's one hymn book for the entire world. And if you put national anthems in there, that's like half the book.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
real question is, are they going to allow us to sing our national anthems at appropriate times?
Yeah.
I
I would imagine
Seems
they won't have an opinion about allowing or not allowing.
they just won't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people just do
Like,
it.
like this was a huge topic when I was in the MTC, because I was in the MTC for almost 2 years or whatever it was.
2 months.
No, 2 years. I worked at the MTC,
Oh,
so I was there for almost 2 years.
Okay.
And this is what I did. I did all of the like audio visual stuff, and so we got to participate in all these random meetings that you don't normally get to see. And we'd talk to the MTC presidency about what was going on. And there was every 4th of July, there was a big hubbub. Like, what are we going to do? We can't celebrate the 4th of July. Half the people in here aren't citizens of this country. And so every year they'd be debating this thing like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And they always, as long as I was there, decided to do the national anthem. And before they decided to do the national anthem and any other patriotic thing they decided to do, like sometimes they do little skits and like historical facts about whatever. Before each time they did it, they would give like this little disclaimer. Like, we understand that this is not for everybody. This isn't always going to be your heritage. This isn't going to be something you understand. And we are not telling you what is right and wrong. We're not telling you that the U.S. is better than anybody else. This is our tradition. And then they would go on with the performance. And I think that wards will do the same thing. Like the church will basically say, yeah, we don't have an opinion on this. In some wards, they'll go all out and they'll sing the patriotic hymns. And then some wards will be like, we'll pass.
Yeah. I remember the Portuguese hymn book had the Brazilian national anthem, but not the Portuguese national anthem.
Oh, interesting.
Because I'm sure when the hymn book was released, I mean, the church only went into Portugal like late 70s. So,
Yeah, I
there
don't
was just no
think
need.
the Spanish one had well, I guess, yeah, you couldn't really have Spanish
Like, think
national
about all the
anthem.
national anthems that would need to be in the Spanish hymn book.
Yeah, that would be a little awkward
Yeah.
to have the El Salvadorian national anthem in the hymn book in Mexico would be a little awkward. All right, so one last idea that I just remembered. So in our ward, and this is the first time I've seen this. Maybe this is more standard than I realized, but we have a choir. We rehearse as a choir, and we choose a date we're going to perform. We comes and we walk up for the intermediate hymn to do our little choir number, and about twice as many people as ever rehearsed in the choir show up on the stand.
So awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, it probably drives some people crazy, but
I don't know. I don't know if it's. I don't really have an opinion about whether or not it's awesome or not. But here's some things that happen, just so you know. Our choir performs non-standard musical numbers, so special musical numbers, and so the people walking up again, like half the choir up on the stage at this point has never heard these musical numbers that we're about to sing, but they want to support, and they know that more numbers the better, whatever. So they get up there, and so they're seeing music that they've never seen, and there's oftentimes some kind of crescendo or some pause or something like that fermata that they're not aware of. And so I'll get a couple of the guys next to me and I'll elbow them real quick before, and I'll be like, hey, right here, you're not singing. Over there, there's a pause. Ready? Here we go. And so they're like trying, and they do pretty good, honestly. Like, it works out pretty good. And then every once in a while, if there's something difficult, I'll reach to the guy next to me and I'll like squeeze his arm, meaning like something's about to come up, trying to prepare him for something unpredictable. And it's always worked out. I don't think it's ever been a bad experience. But if you take that philosophy, you could have the impromptu choir number. Like, hey, for this intermediate hymn, we're not doing the congregational intermediate hymn. It's a volunteer, spontaneous choir up on the stage right now to sing the hymn that we all know. So the entire ward could get up on the stage right now, but it'll probably just be those people who are really interested in being a part of the choir. Let's do it. So that could be an option too. So you've got the families doing stuff out of the hymn book or primary songbook, or you've got the spontaneous here we go choir. And if you alternated those, you have 0 default congregational hymns for the rest of eternity.
okay, so I have to share this experience. I had totally forgotten about this. I was in the MTC a couple of months learning Portuguese, and they made me choir director. And I was determined that my last Sunday there, every missionary in my branch would get up and sing. And I let this be known, and we were having practices. Not everybody was coming to the practice, but most everybody. And that last Sunday, they all got up there. The only people left sitting there to listen were the branch president's family. And that was so cool for me. I just love that.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like the situation where I'm describing, except the whole congregation was committed to going out. I mean, that's I've been to the Pentecostal church, and that's basically what it turns out to be. Like they'll be like, okay, choir number come up, and there's very few people left in the crowd because they're all up there, raising their hands, singing up on the stand. So
well,
yeah,
Pentecostals are singers. I mean, they're big time music. It would be fun for us to gravitate that way a little bit.
Well, the music style is obviously very different. And I've wrestled with that because we went to that church for over a year, and I often wondered about their style, our style, which one is better in which way. And there are like pros and cons to the different ways of doing it. But I think the most important thing I learned was from the converts that came into our church, and they would talk about the church that they came from. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I went to a church like that, a Pentecostal church, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? And when they talked about the LDS hymns, they loved the LDS hymns because the Pentecostal hymns were fun, but it was hard to like really reflect and reverence and feel the spirit. It was like the difference between, being at a dance and then listening to music in your bedroom. Like, which one's going to invite the spirit more, even if you're listening to the same song? And so that was really interesting to get that kind of feedback. But the Pentecostal, we've always wanted to get the Pentecostal church into one of our sacrament meetings to do one of their hymns the way that they want to do it, just so that we can say like, hey, look, this is worshiping too. This is worshiping. And we may not do it exactly that way, but maybe it'd be okay if we learn some things from this.